Now, moving along, journalist and friend of this show, Andy Noah, has made it his mission to uncover ANTIFA, a far-left group who comically call themselves anti-fascist. That's what ANTIFA stands for. They are nothing of the sort. Their plans are to intimidate and destroy. Back in 2019, Andy was covering a protest in Portland when he was assaulted by members of Rose City Antifa. Just have a look at what they did to him. The attack not only left Andy with physical injuries, but he has also got emotional scars as well. He took these three thugs on to in court and he won. They've been ordered to pay him $300,000. But what happened in the criminal case that took place in leftist heartland Portland? Andy Noah is the senior editor at the Post Millennial and author of Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. And he joins us now. Andy, tell us what happened in the criminal case.
So I wish there actually was a criminal trial. There wasn't, and this is the big thing. In my pursuit for justice, out of all the times that I've been assaulted, I didn't get justice through the criminal justice system in Portland, Oregon. I had to pursue a civil case. So there was a civil trial involving 6 individuals plus Rose City Antifa. That was part of the lawsuit originally. At trial, there were 2 defendants last month, and this was in Portland, Oregon. It was a trial that was unfortunately marred with repeated security incidents inside the courtroom, outside the courtroom, outside the courthouse. Just before the jury went to deliberations, one of the defense attorneys made a defense for Antifa and said that she would be remembering all of their faces when they leave. And that was how she left it before they went to deliberate. And the verdict that was given by the jury was not liable for those particular 2. However, at a later hearing involving 3 other Antifa defendants who didn't bother to show up, the judge did rule that they were liable for battery against me, assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. And she awarded the maximum amount she could, which is $300,000 US.
This is incredible, Andy, because your assault was caught on video. There is extensive footage of what happened to you, some of the perpetrators, and for the criminal justice system not to do anything about that with that ample evidence. Meanwhile, we've seen with the January 6 rioters some really quite extraordinary sentences. Can you tell us about that? It was a man who was just sentenced to 17 years. And again, it seems to be disproportionate compared to the sentences we saw during the BLM riots, where, again, there was mass damage and violence.
In 2020, there were extremist rioters on the far left who killed people or attempted to kill people who got much, much lighter sentences when they were convicted. In Portland, where I'm from, where the riots went on the longest, one person who was convicted of multiple counts of attempted murder only got 10 years. So, and that was a federal prosecution. So when you compare a federal to a federal case and you see the disparities in the sentencing outcomes, I think it's completely reasonable for the public to ask, is justice blind in America?
And Andy, I mean, we're very glad that you got some degree of recompense for what you went through, and that's all to the good. But when you look at less prominent cases, I mean, you were talking earlier about, I saw about a case in Portland where a woman was attacked by a transgender activist, had feces smeared all over her car, and this was all caught on video, and the person who committed the alleged offense said that the victim was transphobic, and the person who did it got off. Is there just some weird justice system now happening where if you are part of one of these leftist kind of Leninist vanguard movements, whether it's Antifa or the radical political transgender movement, you are basically going to get off scot-free, or at least with a much lighter charge than you would if you were otherwise involved?
You know, so one doesn't actually have to listen to my commentary or any commentary on the breakdown of the rule of law in America. You can read and listen to the words of the prosecutors themselves. There's been, within the last 5 years, a whole class of district attorneys and prosecutors who have been elected on George Soros' money and other left-wing money. And these prosecutors have been on the record in the past and in the present about their views on what they say is restorative justice, which is tilting the justice system in a way to try to correct what they view as historical and current wrongs. And how we see that manifest on the ground is that serial violent offenders are being let out because they may fit some type of minority status or victim status.
Andy, I've got 2 questions for you. I mean, you suffered a terrible brain injury because of this assault. 3 of the 6 defendants were ordered to pay you $100,000 each. So my first question is, what chance that you'll get the money from these Antifa protesters? And my second question, your family came to America from Vietnam in 1978. What do your family think about the way America's gone and this sort of behaviour? I mean, they fled violence in Vietnam looking for safety, and now to have this happen to you, how does your family reconcile that?
So collection of what I'm owed is going to be really hard, and I'm going to pursue every legal avenue that I have to try to collect. But at the end of the day, you can't squeeze blood from a stone. That's also a reality. You're right, my family did come to the United States as political refugees to escaping the communist regime in Vietnam. And I think, bless them, there's a bit of a language barrier that makes it so they aren't fully aware of how bad things have deteriorated, particularly in their home city now, Portland, Oregon. But from what my mother has seen, because of the violence against me and the threats that have unfortunately bled onto my family, she's afraid and she's confused about what's happened to America and the American dream.
And a big part of this, Andy, is the media, because there have been elements of the mainstream media, despite the abundant evidence of just how violent and destructive this mob is, Antifa. They are presented as some sort of heroic, anti-racist, anti-fascist group when they're nothing of the sort. So what role has the mainstream media played in what we're seeing in the States at the moment?
I think by propagandizing on behalf of Antifa, what's happened in certain jurisdictions is that the population has been brainwashed. And so when it comes to the few who get prosecuted and it goes to trial, even from a random selection of a jury pool, and unfortunately I saw this myself during jury selection, you're going to have a large percentage of people in some places like Portland where they just think of Antifa as being against fascism. And if you're critical of Antifa, that means you're pro-fascist somehow. This is the propaganda, lies, and deception of Antifa.
Yes,
and their media enablers.
And their media enablers. Andy, no, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.